Hello, everyone, and welcome. In this session, Empowering Students via Digitally Enabled Work Integrated Experiential Learning, we are joined by Lorraine Carter, from the Director of McMaster University Continuing Education, and Dana Stevenson, CEO of Riipen. And if you haven't done so already yet, please do introduce yourself in the chat. If you have any questions throughout the session, we'd love to hear from you. Make sure you chime in on the chat, and we'll be watching and answering live. Please take it away, Dana and Lorraine.
Perfect. Hi, my name is Dana Stevenson. I'm co-founder and CEO of Riipen, and I have with me.
My name is Carter, and I'm the director of McMaster University Continuing Education. It's terrific to be here with you today.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
So a little bit about McMaster. This is a continuing education unit that has much history. As the slide indicates, we have been in the, if you will, business of lifelong learning for more than 80 years. And in the last number of years, particularly in the online education space as it serves adult learners. I think it's over to you, Dana.
Perfect. So Riipen is an online marketplace that enables higher ed institutions to provide high quality, high impact work integrated learning at scale. We do this by connecting educators to employers to bring more real world learning opportunities to students throughout their education by embedding live employer-sponsored projects directly into the course curriculum. So students gain experience and job-ready skills to find the jobs that they love. Companies gain fresh insights and build and diversify their talent pipeline. Thanks to fantastic partners like McMaster and Lorraine here, we are building the largest and most active project-based experiential learning ecosystem. We've launched our first two schools in 2016. We've now since grown to over 300 higher institutions, both for 10 employers. But as you can see here, what we're most proud of is that since 2017, when we started tracking, with our partners, we've delivered over 80,000 student experiences. That's over 5 million student learning hours through this model. I'll now pass it back over to you, Lorraine.
Thanks so much, Dana. I'd like to start some remarks by telling you a little bit more about the students that participate in our academic programs, because our academic programs are where the Riipen course partnerships happen. So this data is based on 2019 data. We are presently pulling together the data for the fiscal year that is ending very shortly. So we do think there'll be some changes in this, and I'll indicate where I believe those changes will happen. Really excited to see that although we define ourselves as an adult education unit, that a greater number of undergrads are finding us than in days past. So if we consider an N of 5,000 in our academic programs, certificates and diplomas particularly, it's a telling thing to see that the younger adult learner is seeking career-faced learning opportunities, and I think they're probably going to have some Riipen opportunities out of this. So the second point speaks to the fact that we have noticed a doubling of our younger adult learners over the last little while, principally skewing and learners largely from the Gen Y, if we look at all of our learners, and they come in with a fair bit of post-secondary education. So just 6%, when I say secondary, could be a college diploma. Oftentimes it is a degree, and we certainly have individuals with graduate level education participating in our programs. Their reasons for being there fall into 4 categories. There is the other category, which I will not speak to, but career advancement nets out at 42%, professional development at 18%, and highlighted for you here is that we're seeing an increase in terms of career path longing among our learners. And I think that's going to some of the remarks. Because McMaster Continuing Education is particularly strong in business offerings as well as health education offerings. If you know McMaster University at all, it is an internationally regarded university, particularly in the areas of its research identity, but also in its health education expertise. So no big surprise watching this pattern that we have an increase occurring in terms of our unemployed learners. And I would suspect that when the numbers shake out for the present year with the realities of a COVID year, that these numbers are going to increase. The last point I raise because this 86%, which is says to us that people are very much needing a complete program so that they can take it to an employer and move forward. It's not that I'm here for a single course. There are individuals who are doing that, of course, but in general, people are there for the longer term, for the credential to be able to better their lives and their career opportunities. So if we could move to the next slide, that would be grand. So a little bit about why WIEL, W-I-E-L, and McMaster Continuing Education. It's foremost about career readiness. There's no question about that. From a learning theory perspective, there is all kinds of terrific literature and evidence of application of theory. And when you've got the theory and when you've got the application, you have further what is called praxis. The literature actually speaks about learning steadiness. It's perhaps a term you might associate with a toddler, but it's also really important when we think about learning that is central to what one will do in thinking and one in action. Development of teamwork skills, use of online collaboration tools, networking. Those are terrific opportunities that become available through WIEL, and they're only going to increase their importance. Just as the literature tells us that we're going to need technological skills, we're going to need these fundamental, essential human skills more and more. The duty of care comment is one that comes, I think, from my background. Duty of care is a concept that comes out of the legal world, and it is about doing no harm. Well, we hope we do no harm, but we'd also like to do better than that. So in bringing adult learners through our courses and programs, they invest time, energy, and money. And if we can do the best that we can to complement that with a work-integrated experiential learning opportunity, I think we've done a better job than otherwise. And noted here on the slide, just for the purposes of a visual, really, are examples of some of the organizations that McMaster Continuing Education students have been introduced to and worked with. And the next slide would be terrific. Thank you. And why Riipen? Through Riipen, a platform opportunity that connects students, educators, and companies with that which is real world. Not that your case studies and your projects otherwise are not real world, but this is happening. This is you're engaged with industry that is trying to solve a problem and tapping into your expertise. And again, at the risk of perhaps repeating myself, I do think that the development of digital and teamwork skills is something that the Riipen opportunity provides. And from a very practical point of view, speaking as the director of the CE unit, for us to be able to provide these kinds of learning opportunities, we would have to have a dedicated team to do this. So our team is working in partnership with Riipen. And the next slide. So no need to work through numbers here, but I would draw your attention to the fact that we have certain kinds of courses and programs presenting in terms of the courses that we embed Riipen in, and that's a really critical point. Not every course will work especially well. One does need to be selective in terms of that. The second table, which in the case of the first one as well, progresses from 2017. So we were working with Dana and his team in early days, and then we continue now in 2021. You will note that the number of projects and the number of partners has increased over. So we've come back year over year. Projects have increased, partners have increased. And the next slide. So the point of this particular slide is to suggest that it takes an interprofessional team working well together. So the visual speaks to program managers and experiential learning coordinator, really important for us, that role, who in this instance does back and forth between the instructional team, the instructor, him or herself, a critical role in terms of helping debunk some of this. Instructional designers, because our courses are online and there does need to be adaptation of courses such that they handle the course experience of a project effectively. And then of course the instructors. I won't take you step by step through what we do in terms of the work around identifying a project, but it is a sequent approach, and it does take a little time and it does take a little resilience to work through. Dana, I think it's your turn.
Perfect. Thank you, Lorraine. Thank you for sharing that. I just want to say, first off, it's just been an absolutely wonderful experience working with you, team, over the years. We often like to think of our partnerships with academic institutions as innovation partnerships, and this is certainly, I think, a great example. Now, one of the major goals of this presentation is to give a quick tour of our course library and showcase a few of McMaster courses. Before I jump into that, I'd like to speak a little bit to Riipen's secret, but not so secret sauce. So in the early days of working with higher ed institutions to transform existing courses into work integrated learning courses, we identified two major pain points. And one of those really was around, how do I take a course that doesn't currently have a work integrated learning component and transform it into a course, into a work integrated learning course? Number two is, how do I find the right company partners and maintain those relationships and continuously find the right projects that not only align with the learning objectives of my course, but also create a valuable and authentic learning experience for the learner and for the host company. So with these two challenges in mind, we made a very early and intentional decision to create what we like to call, and sort of showcased here, our open and collaborative shared ecosystem. And I'll show you what that looks like in a second. But first thing you need to know is that Riipen truly is a two-sided marketplace. So on one side, educators from institutions like McMaster, continuing education, will post their courses describing the engagement to employers and what types of projects would be a good fit. On the other side, companies are continuously posting projects that meet their business and talent needs, but are also designed in a way that creates an authentic and valuable learning experience. And often this sometimes sounds simple, but the key point here is it's really about getting the employer side and the academic side speaking the same language and creating that creation experience and that feedback loop to continuously learn and improve over time. And to support, coming to the ecosystem here, to support our partners in the early days when our partners were coming on board, we created a whole list of templates based on best practices. Educators can come to the platform, they could choose from a template or build it from scratch, launch a course, and quickly match to a partner and launch their work integrated learning course. But then something really unexpected and exciting happened. Our marketplace became more than just a marketplace. Our educators and employer partners began co-creating and sharing their courses and employer projects as templates for the entire community. So, a few years into this, we're now over 6,000 templates that have been shared essentially as open and educational shared resources. And we're quickly becoming one of the fastest growing, or the fastest growing and largest project-based work integrated learning template library, in the world. And this is starting to experience, we're starting to see how the experience of very powerful network effects and creating a flywheel in our ecosystem. Essentially, it's pretty simple. The more courses that are posted by our higher ed institutions, the more companies we attract, and the more companies we attract, the more courses get posted. And really, this is increasing the richness and diversity of the projects available in our ecosystem, and it's allowing us to slowly over time expand into so many more new areas. So let me give you a quick tour of what that looks like. And so one of the things I like to always say is that the exciting thing about this is we wanted to make it open. We really, so one of you, if you're interested in exploring how you yourselves or your colleagues could implement work integrated learning in courses, you can come to riipen.com, and without even having to sign up or log in, you just simply click on this explore button. This is going to take you into our featured marketplace. And in our featured marketplace, you can see featured courses and featured projects and featured institutions. But on and so you see a highlighted of features here. But if you're interested in really seeing what's going on and seeing these examples in place, you can just hit the Explore tab right here, and you can flip between projects, courses, or internship programs. I'm going to focus on courses and projects today, which is really the core focus of what we do. So quickly, on this side, this is really what we were describing. You know, on the Explore Courses tab, these are all of the course pages that have been posted by our partner institutions from all over the world. They're describing the types of projects they're looking for, and it's really catered towards organizations, because we are constantly funneling hundreds, if not thousands, of organizations to these pages every single day to view them, to help give them ideas of what kind of projects they could design and develop to get embedded directly into the curriculum. If you're interested in this, you can check out different categories here to find out what others are doing in this space and connect with them and learn from them and launch this yourself. Highly encourage you to do that. The flip side of that is you can also look at the projects tab. So many of our partners, or especially in that early design phase, when they're starting to think about the courses that they want to launch, they can also go to the industry side, and they can see all the different projects that have been posted and start to get a good sense of what match the course. What are these projects that are available? So again, you can filter by category, you can do advanced searches. And this, you know, we hope this becomes a really useful resource for you in your exploration of designing and launching work integrated learning programs. A couple of quick highlights here. So I've chosen a couple of courses with McMaster University. So here's an example of a course page. This is usually done in a matter of, getting this up and launched takes a matter of 30 minutes, especially when using a template. This is one that's launched by Chris Bertolo. It's a marketing course where they're looking at designing a marketing plan for a new launch of products for a consumer brand. So you see here how this describes what the students can do for the company, what kind of projects would be a good fit, categories that are tagged to it to help with matchmaking, what the organization can expect to get out of it, and the commitments that an organization has to commit to make sure the students are really set up for success in this engagement. This is something that's really important on our course pages. You can see here, this was a group project and about 30 hours per work, and it's well underway right now. The students are completing it, working with 5 organizations. Another great example here that I've chosen is strategic web design. And again, teams of 4, 50 hours per student. There's a lot of flexibility and customizability in terms of how you want to design these courses to make sure they align with the objectives of the program. In this case, students are actually using their software development skills to build content management system for organizations for their digital content. So a really exciting project for a lot of organizations, and the students get matched to a company to go and support them through this project, gain that real world experience, those connections, and be able to showcase that off to future employers. The final thing I always like to show, the final product, is that students, as they complete these projects, here's a student from McMaster University of Continuing Education, here's a profile. They're actually building up these profiles, showcasing the great work that they're doing for these organizations, and they're able to take this feedback and these skill of verifications, and again, showcase that off to future employers, helping them land the jobs they love. So now, to jump over here, we want to jump into a little bit of a fireside chat here. So I'm going to pose this question to you, Lorraine. Obviously, we've had lots of conversations about this, but what inspired McMaster University Continuing Education to pursue this type of work integrated learning in your programs?
So it's a terrific question, Dana, and one needs to not think about it, because it's the adult learning community that we work with and serve. But if I back up from that a little bit, I referred earlier to the concept of, deepening one's learning and developing practical skills. It's just a no-brainer that that's going to be accomplished more so through experiential learning than other ways. In Ontario, where I come from too, there's a great value presently put on those organizations are emphasizing experiential learning. So it was a natural progression from that point of view. Going back to the learner, though, for a minute, the adult learner typically is ready in one way, but may have been out of the market and wanting to reacquire some new skills. How better to do that than to, in addition to coursework, to be able to embed a wheel opportunity. And leaders these days may or may not have money or sufficient funding to be able to train people as they land in a new place of work. So this is, I think, a terrific way for a learner who is there not to do a four-year degree. This is continuing education or professional continuing education in particular, but to be able to make a change and to develop some new skills and understand that they're getting real value for their investment of their time and their money. So that's really what's motivated us, I think, Dana.
Absolutely, and we've been we just obviously we started in undergrad programs, and I think you were one of the first continuing education programs, if not actually the first, I believe.
I think we were
on the program, which was super exciting. But one of the things that we've heard quite a bit is that the adult learner doesn't necessarily have the same the traditional internship or the traditional co-op program where you have to take semesters off to get the work experience and then come back to do the education and then finally complete your degree. They may not necessarily have those same that be able to commit their life commitment. Is that something similar on your side?
Without question, Dana. The community of learners we work with typically have responsibilities around family, around family that might be toddlers, might be teenagers, might be older parents. They likewise are balancing work and community responsibilities. Their ability to participate in a more traditional co-op or intern is diminished for sure. But through the model we're talking about here, they can get this work integrated experiential learning opportunity. And perhaps they are furthering their online and digital skills. Perhaps too, they're meeting people that they would meet, because you could have classmates that are on the same project, and it's coast to coast that our learners come from. As I indicated, we're fairly well established in the online education space for adults. So to me, it's a gift for that learner. Doesn't mean it's going to be perfect, because there are time zones to deal with. There are group dynamics to deal with. We all love to hate group work sometimes, that's for sure. But those are real life skills, and to be able to get them and work them into your work and your career and your family life is pretty terrific.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I mean, it's something that we hear so often from our companies, that they really value the group experience, because those students are demonstrating that they're building those types of skills. And that's what it's like when you go and join a company. You're going to be doing group work. Right. You're going to be collaborating. You've got to develop those teamwork and collaboration skills and communication skills. And another thing that you pointed out that I really I think is super exciting, especially with the online programs and having learners from coast to coast, as you mentioned, this type of work experience, because of the tools and because of the virtual setting that it can be done in, you can have learners from different geographies work together with the company from a completely different geography. Right. And I was just in your portal earlier today, and I was seeing a whole bunch of companies from all over, not just across Canada, but even employers down in the US, or even some international companies as well, which I imagine the students are finding valuable.
Without question, for sure. My home community is Northern Ontario, which is by Ontario terms, I suppose, remote. But you could very well have learners in Sault Ste. Marie or Sudbury, participating in what's going on in a Vancouver company. Or as you said, it can go further than that too. It can go into the States. And I'm sure, Dana, you are going to acquire more and more interested employers and industries for the platform. So yeah, so it flattens that reality of geography being a barrier or your locale being a smaller community. Yep. And yeah, it's a good thing.
Absolutely. I wanted to just touch on a little bit, in maybe even thinking about the evolution. What were the educators and students' reception to work integrated experiential learning?
It's a very important question for those who would be considering this pathway to know that, yes, I am a champion and I will continue to be so. But it would also be unfair of me to say that every of the time. But let me speak to both the strengths, the opportunities, and some of the challenges that have been presented by both educators and students. We have, in a couple of instances, replaced final exams with a Riipen project for students who struggle with exam anxiety. I'm having anxiety over the term. This is a good thing. Likewise, they do, I think, at times struggle with process, but once you're at the other side and you see what you have been able to accomplish, and you see that, oh gosh, the feedback from the employer on this report or this submission is really quite positive, then I think that's affirming in terms of confidence that a person isn't thinking that she might work in the web design area or a business with a particular focus. So those are some realities that I think are benefits for students. Students, whether they're undergrads, whether they're PhDs, whether they're the great group that we work with, they will struggle from time to time with balancing group dynamic, with meeting timelines, how to engage with somebody who is in the work world. My communication style might be a little bit different from my group mates, but it might also be somewhat different than the employer I'm connecting with. But in the overall, I think that because we have continued to evolve and to make some changes, that formative evaluation is really important to say, just because we started one way doesn't mean we're going to continue that way. We need to, take the pulse and rejig. Educators have been advantaged in terms of having to think about teaching and learning or pedagogies in different ways. Sometimes that's a stretching, but I think it's a very good thing. They have learned that they need to be extremely clear in terms of setting out expectations, in terms of where the assignment appears within the context of the course. I also think probably are becoming better teachers because they realize that I need to signpost this well for students, in contrast with expecting that this would occur well without these additional pieces. But I've heard some fantastically great things about, people are getting real life experience. I'm really impressed by the work that my students were able to do. Early days, Dana, we did have some difficulty always getting the right partners, the right projects, but your team has, changed and evolved too. So that's a much diminished challenge now. I think that's probably it, that it is a bit of a dance in terms of you've got players here from industry, from student life and education. Have the other team that is the support team within Riipen and within our unit. But eventually the dance starts to come together. I think that's where we're at.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm going to give a quick sort of plug here because I did attend UPCEA's sort of sister organization in Canada, the KU's conference, and
Right.
the team did a fantastic presentation showing the evolution of different feedback that they collected from employers and students and different things they put into place. One thing in particular was a project charter, which was really impressive.
Oh,
We
right.
sort of shared that with among most of our community, which improved engagement and satisfaction and outcomes across the network. I think we're pretty close on time. Jan, quick time check.
We're almost pretty much there.
Okay, perfect. So obviously we haven't had a chance to get to all of the questions, but obviously some of the things that we're really interested in discussing is around how this type of engagement can really enhance inclusion, accessibility, and diversity goals of an institution, and specifically around providing access to work-integrated experiential learning. So if you're interested in learning more about that, both Lorraine and myself would love to chat with you about it as well. And, this is always one of my favorite conversations to have. And Lorraine and I have lots of exciting ideas to talk to you about. So if anyone's interested in hearing about what the of work integrated looks like at McMaster Computation, or just in general, please contact us. We'd love to stay in touch. We'd love to chat with you. This space, as Lorraine mentioned, is evolving very quickly. I just want to say thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, Lorraine. This was fantastic. Your comments were incredibly valuable. And we look forward to staying in touch with everyone who attended today.
Thanks everybody from McMaster Continuing Education. As Dana has said, I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you.